Hi guys, Mr. Helmsing here. This is about the fifth time I've retaken this, and basically it's just because I'm going on too long. I'm making this more complex than it probably needs to be. So what I want to talk to you guys today about is subject complements, and that's kind of the next step in doing this. We started working with this in class just a little bit, but I just want to clarify a few things. First thing is subject complements, they work with subjects, obviously. Okay, so as compared to the things we've been looking at before with objects and direct objects, those deal with verbs. These deal with subjects. So the subject of the sentence is going to be modified or changed or clarified in some way with subject complements. Okay, whereas last time we were talking about direct and indirect objects, those have to do with the verb. Okay, so those explain more about the verb or the action in the sentence. Okay, so that's kind of the two different branches we're dealing with here. Now, the next thing I want you guys to know, and this should help you a lot, is that you find them the same way as any other complement. So I'm just going to put found the same way, and I'll kind of walk you through that in just a second. Okay, so there's really nothing to relearn. You're going to follow the same method. Actually, it's a little bit easier than finding indirect objects. So basically the direct object method, where you find the subject and then the verb and then what the verb does, that's going to find also these subject complements. There are two types, and those are obviously going to be nominatives, and I'm just going to abbreviate that just for time, and adjectives. I'm going to abbreviate that as well. Okay, so there are two different types of subject complements, predicate nominatives and predicate adjectives. Now don't get confused because it's got the word predicate in there. It doesn't have much to do with a verb. It just means it's in the predicate phrase. Okay, so let's just kind of leave that to the side. I'm not going to talk about that too much. But let's just call them nominatives and adjectives. Okay, so the difference between the two is basically a nominative renames something. These can be like professional names or maybe nicknames or something like that, but it renames the subject. An adjective basically just clarifies the subject, or it's an adjective. It's a describing word for the subject in there. So I'm just going to put subject clarification. Or clarify, that's close enough. All right. So these are the things you need to know about these. Give you some really quick examples. But let's just kind of go through it the same way. I'm reading directly from the book here. But let's see. The very first one they give on this as an example is this one's actually Alice. We'll use Alex anyway. Alex is a dedicated teacher. All right, so I'm going to try to pick a different color. We'll work with this one down here. Write it in. Alex is a dedicated teacher. Very short sentence. All right, let's do it the same way though. First off, find the subject. In this case, it's going to be Alex. So we identified Alex as the subject. The verb in this case, we don't have a transitive verb. We've got a short linking verb, and it's is. And then you ask yourself, just like last time, what is what? Alex is what? Well, in this case, it's going to be teacher. Dedicated describes teacher. All right, so we know that teacher is our complement. It's probably very easy for us to see that by now. But then we got to kind of ask ourselves, and I'm not going to mix these up too much, but I want you to know the difference between the two. But you got to ask yourself, okay, what is this doing? Is this describing, how an action happens? Does it have to do with is? Kind of, sort of, but more specifically, it clarifies what Alex, what his title is. He has a profession. He is considered this to many people. So because of that, it's going to actually be one of these. It's a nominative. Okay, it doesn't modify Alex necessarily. It kind of renames him. So because it renames him, it's a nominative. So just kind of associate name with nominative. That's probably the easy way to remember it. Let's look at another one. The next one down here that they give us is, let's see, the lemonade is sour. Another short sentence. And as you guys know, this is not... should be an E there. There we go. This is not my preferred way to do these things because I feel like they give you very easy examples and then they give you really hard ones to do the work with. But we'll kind of go through these just because I don't want to use a whole bunch of paper and time and stuff to write all this stuff out. It's kind of scratchy anyway. So let's go through this really short, simple sentence. It says the lemonade is sour. In this one, it's pretty easy to see that lemonade is going to be the subject. Okay, the verb, we have another linking verb, and that's going to be a trend with these. These are going to have linking verbs or auxiliary verbs. They're not going to have hard transitive verbs. Hard transitive verbs are going to be a sign of either a direct object, okay, and possibly an indirect object. But these linking verbs, transitive verbs, more often than not, if there's not a hard action going on, it's going to indicate to you that it's modifying the subject in some way. Okay, so that makes it a subject complement. So again, is would be the verb, and then is, you got to ask yourself what. So lemonade is what in this sentence? It's sour. Okay, super easy. But let's take a look at the word sour. So let's think about, we know the complement is sour. We've identified that. We got to identify if it's an adjective at this point or if it's a nominative. So sour, and it relates to lemonade. And you can see probably pretty easily that sour is describing the lemonade. It's not changing the name of it. It doesn't say this lemonade is called a sour or something like that. It just basically describes the flavor, the taste of it. So because it describes, it's going to make it an adjective in this case. Okay? So that would be an example of predicate adjective. Just kind of take this for what it is. Rewatch this a few times if you're not getting it, but just remember the same things you learned for finding direct objects are going to work here. Okay, it's even one step less than finding a indirect object. Okay, so keep this in mind. Hopefully this helps, and we'll work with this more in class. Thanks for watching, guys.